What's up guys, this is Cory. Welcome to CNA Films and Animation. Today I'm going to do another analytical old versus new review of Dawn of the Dead. Yes, I'm going to take a look at the 1978 film directed by George A. Romero and the 2004 film directed by Zack Snyder. So to start off with the 1978 film was directed by George A. Romero, and it basically was sparked as an idea by George A. Romero after he visited a mall in Pennsylvania, specifically the Monroeville Mall, and he got the idea that what if it was basically people trapped in or trying to take refuge in a mall because they have all sorts of supplies to live off of while a zombie apocalypse is happening. So, he got the idea together, he wrote the script, and created one of the most well-known, one of the most famous and biggest pop culture sequels ever to hit theaters. Now, Dawn of the Dead is not a direct sequel to Night of the Living Dead. In fact, it doesn't even really have any resemblance to Night of the Living Dead. Dawn of the Dead features none of the same characters from Night of the Living Dead, and it doesn't even start off remotely near the end of the first one. This film starts off with a group of people. They are trying to understand why the dead are coming back to life. They're at a radio show, a radio station, and a group of people decide they're going to leave the radio station and get out, try to find refuge somewhere else. So they go ahead and leave. Then we cut to a few other people who are basically cops, specialized enforcers, who are going to this apartment building where they believe someone's holding some of the living dead or something, and this causes a big all-out open fire between the cops and some guys who are living in the apartment, and eventually they escape. A couple of cops escape, and they all head to this mall where they join together and try to seek refuge, and they have to distract the zombies and try to get them to go to different parts of the store so they can get supplies and stuff. They create a fake wall to confuse the zombies, basically, and they're just kind of there at the mall trying to survive. And some things happen. There's a woman who's pregnant, and she wants to learn how to fly a helicopter, which they do. They teach her how to fly a helicopter, and they are there for months, basically, in this mall. And eventually this leads a group of bikers to show up and try to overtake the mall, which the zombies take over and kill pretty much everybody except for a couple of people, which the couple of people escape by helicopter. That's the end of the movie. But this movie has some historical value, at least for film historical value. It really was a very successful sequel, if you can call it that. It's the second film of the series, the Living Dead series, but it's not a direct sequel. You guys get what I'm talking about. But anyway, then we have the 2004 film directed by Zack Snyder, and basically it follows a group of people. They survive the initial attack from the zombies, and they go and seek refuge in this mall where they stay and fight them off from the inside. And they come across some people, like one guy who is in another building more or less across the street, and they communicate by talking with whiteboards, stuff like that, and eventually, they try to escape the mall, and they end up on an island at the end of the movie, or at least a dock, and a couple of people leave going to this island, which that's more or less what happens in the 2004 film. Both films are very different, yet very much alike, so I'm going to do an old versus new. So let's take a look at the story. Which film tells the better story? Well, I already gave the two plots of the films, but which one tells the story a little bit better? Both films do a good job at telling their story. I do feel that one film does it a little bit better, it's a little more coherent, and is a little more consistent. And that film would be Zack Snyder's film. Now, don't turn off this video just quite yet. I do feel that Romero's film is very, very strong. My main problems with it is that there are a few random scenes. Well, they're not random, but they really don't serve much of a purpose to the entire movie. The version I saw was the US theatrical release, which runs at about 2 hours and 10 minutes, roughly. And, it's a little long. There's some stuff that could have easily been cut out and would have served, and wouldn't have harmed the movie in any way, shape, or form. But I feel like Zack Snyder's film is nicely edited, and it does a better job at telling the overall story. So, point two, Zack Snyder. Now we move on to the acting. Which film has the better acting? Honestly, both films do a really good job at portraying its characters. I will say that the films are both very well acted, and both characters all the characters in both films are very believable. You learn a little bit more about the characters in the 1978 film than you do in the 2004 film, but that's mainly because there's more time with these characters in the 1978 film, and that's partly some of the stuff that could be cut out. I mean, don't get me wrong, you need character development and build up the characters and everything, but it's a little too much character, I guess, for some people. But both do a good job, and I will probably lean a little bit more toward the Romero film, just because I feel that there is more time with the characters, and therefore you learn more of their motivations and their personalities. So, point to Romero. Next, we move on to makeup. The film's makeup and special effects for the Romero film were done by Tom Savini, and I'm not sure who did the 2004 film, but Tom Savini, as I mentioned in Night of the Living Dead, is a fantastic makeup and special effects artist. He is one of the best out there and still does a great job today. This film is no exception. However, I will say that his choice of making the zombies kind of a bluish gray was a little bit odd for me. I think it was just due to a technical mistake that he made, and it turned out that they looked a little more bluish than they should have been. But I mean, it's still a neat idea, even though I do have some issues with it. The 2004 film, the characters are very natural looking. They look like they've just killed and reanimated and everything. They're creepy looking, and so I'm going to go with the point toward the Zack Snyder film. I do think that the makeup is a little bit better in that film, mainly because of the bluish gray stuff in the Dawn of the Dead. Mainly because of the bluish gray stuff in the Romero film that kind of turns me off a little bit. But yeah, I'll go with Zack Snyder's. Now we move on to special effects. Both films do a great job with the special effects. But point is going to go to Romero. Tom Savini and his special effects makeup team did an absolutely fantastic job. It is a little dated and it's a little cheesy now, but it really did define an era, special effects era. It was very bloody for its time. In fact, it was initially going to be rated X because of the over-the-top violence and the graphic nature of the zombie killings and stuff. And so, that's interesting to me. 2004 film, honestly, I've seen stuff a lot like it. So it doesn't really blow me away or anything, but it is still very well done. But point is going to go to Romero's film. Now we move on to villain. Who has the better villain, or most memorable villain, I suppose? The villains in these movies are the zombies, hands down. Although you could argue that the 1978 film's villains were the bikers, but for argument's sake we'll call the villains the zombies. So which film's zombies were better, I guess? Honestly, I'll say that the 2004 film had some of the better, in all honesty, this depends on whether you go for realism or if you go for, kind of an over-the-top nature of zombies. I imagine the zombies being more realistic in the 1978 film. They're slow, they're sluggish, but they're not stupid either. And in the 2004 film, they're fast. They move very quickly, they're fierce, and they're kind of scary. So I'm going to go with Zack Snyder's film, just because there is a scarier edge to their zombies than the 1978 film. I do think that Romero's zombies are very well done. They're probably more realistic, but I am going to lean a little more toward the 2004 film on that one. Now we move on to what is scarier. Which film is scarier, in my opinion? Well, I'm going to say that the 2004 film is much scarier than the 1978 film. That is mainly because the zombies are more intense, they're scarier looking, and they are. I wouldn't want to run into any of these type of zombies. So I'm going to have to say Zack Snyder wins my vote for the scarier film. For its time, Dawn of the Dead was a scary film, and in fact, it had a really nice social commentary, especially with like consumerism and the big push for more like consumerism stuff that happened throughout the 70s and even the 80s, and it has some nice social commentary on that. But honestly, I'm going to lean a little more towards Zack Snyder. I'm a little surprised by this, but overall, Zack Snyder's film technically wins. It's a little scarier, it's a little more up-to-date, the makeup is really well done, and it tells the better story. However, I will say that the 1978 film is a very important film for its time. It basically launched several more zombie movies to come out, and it's a very influential film for its time. If I was to say that Snyder's film is a better film than the 1978 film, I don't know if I'd say that. I will say that, well, on some levels I'll say that Snyder's film is a little bit better. It improves upon a lot of the stuff that I have issues with in the 1978 film, but it doesn't hold the overall significance that the 1978 film does. So, I recommend both films actually. Snyder's film was one of the few horror movie remakes that I don't have a lot of issues with. I enjoyed it, in fact, and that's rare. There's only been a couple of remakes that have been able to pull that off, including the remake for Evil Dead, which came out this year, and John Carpenter's The Thing was very, very well done, and improved upon a lot of the elements of the 1951 film, The Thing from Another World, and even The Fly. Definitely improved upon a lot of elements, especially in the special effects department, but and makeup for that matter. But yeah, I enjoyed both movies for very different reasons. I will say that you know, Snyder's film has more of an edge to it than the '78 film, but the '78 film is a very significant film in film history. So recommend both, and yeah. So tell me, guys, have you seen Dawn of the Dead, both Romero's and Snyder's film? If you have, what'd you think of them? Did you like them? Did you dislike them? Do you agree with me on some of these elements? Do you disagree? Share your thoughts, comment below, let me know. I'd love to hear your feedback. If you guys like this video, be sure to like, favorite, subscribe. Be sure to check out our other videos. Be sure to like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. If you have any movie suggestions or TV suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments. And as always, I am Cory, and I will see you guys in the next one.